everyone, I'm Celeste, and welcome to my channel about cosplay. I teach you tutorials about how to create the costume, how to do the makeup, so you can become the character of your dreams. Today we are talking about Ahri's KDA tail. If you've seen some of my past videos, I completed the entire outfit, so today I'm going to finish it off by showing you how to create the tail. The tail looks like this. I used a lot of different skills, but they're actually pretty simple and basic. I used wire manipulation, fabric manipulation, minor sewing, and hot glue. If you're new to my channel, make sure to click that red button down below to subscribe so you never miss any future cosplay content. Just a quick side note, my makeup today, I was inspired by jellyfish, and I really wanted to have jellyfish on my face, without it being too weird. Does it look weird? Anyways, I'd like to have fun. You guys have fun by watching this tutorial, and I will see you after it's done. Sorry for the poor camera angle, but let's just skip through this part as soon as possible. Draw a lightning bolt shape on a piece of tissue paper comparable to the size of your waistband and then cut it out. And then, oh great, here's another terrible camera angle, I'm so sorry. And then trace your little lightning bolt onto a piece of craft foam. Do this twice for left and right. And then cut it out. Now take out some thick, heavy gauge wire. You might recognize this wire from my Kaisa costume, because it is the same wire. This is armature wire. Now begin to lay it at the tip and bend where the lightning bolt is and curves. Make sure to have some extra at the end so it can attach to a base. Do this for both left and right.
Bazzy, stop getting in the way of my work, please.
After I made that middle lightning bolt, I made two smaller lightning bolts to go on top so it gives more detail. You can see here that I made the middle one entirely long piece of wire. I did this so it was easier to copy the one piece on both sides. With your hot glue gun fired up, start gluing the thunderbolt wire. You want this to be nice and even and covered in glue. We want some dimension on it. Now slowly press it into the middle of your thunderbolt piece so that you can get the structure that you need. Do this for the left and right side. I also used extra hot glue and the hot glue gun to make sure that it laid nicely and it had a little bit of a beveled edge next to the wire. I used the hot glue gun tip to make sure that it was very smooth and didn't have too many bumps. After I glued down all of the lightning pieces, I added extra support in the back by using extra wire and gluing it in the center. Then I'm using tacky glue to spread all around the lightning bolt pieces so I can adhere gold lame fabric. This is the same lame fabric that I used for the top for Ahri and the pieces for Kaisa's cosplay. Because this isn't a sewn part of the cosplay, I want to put this at the edge as much as I can so I can save as much fabric as possible. You can see the nice embellishments that the wire gave, and it also gives stability for this project. Now cut around it, don't cut straight next to the foam because we want to glue it onto the underside of the foam. Hello Bowser, trying to annoy me, aren't you? When gluing underneath the foam, just fold the fabric over and secure it with hot glue, like other parts that I've done with this costume. Now on to making the tail. Go ahead and grab out that same wire that you used for making the lightning bolts. This again is armature wire and it's very strong. We're going to be covering the wire with this beautiful chiffon that has glitter on it and it's two-toned. It's got purple and blues. First, we are going to make the base of the tail, that way the fabric has something to grab on. So get out a long piece of wire. I actually measured out to be about the length of my arm. Once I had the length of my arm, I made an extra length of my arm, and then I made a second piece the same length as the first. Make sure to give yourself some extra room. Now I'm just going to fold the longest wires in half, and we want them to be this big. And then we want to crisscross them here. And then we're going to take a smaller wire and cut a piece of that. Cut that. Now we are going to take one of the wires and wrap it a few times. That way it will hold it in place. And open it. and get the other one and wrap it exactly on top of it so it creates a box. And the reason why I wanted to do it this way is because I want my tail to have dimension and still look crystal. And then we are just going to keep wrapping this to make sure it's extra secure. And then slowly, I'm going to keep wrapping the wire around one of the little stems here. Make sure to press the wire completely down so that it doesn't come out. This is secure and it isn't going anywhere, so I'm going to use the last bit of this wire to kind of help keep its shape. So I wanted to take this time to show you how far the tail is, and I did it on my own without the camera. I showed you the beginning aspects of how to make this top part, but I didn't show you this base part. I'm basing this off of how it is 3D modeled, and you need to have the idea of how it would look when it's 3D modeled. So I wanted to make this inside shape so it's see-through and it's lightweight. Obviously, I needed a lot of structure so that it doesn't collapse within itself. So we are going to need this 4 parts separated. You want to take a bit of wire. Now begin wrapping that wire evenly between one of the stems. And the stems, I mean the base wire part. Once you've wrapped it around a few times, go to the next stem with the wire and wrap it around again. After wrapping it a few times, if you have enough space, go ahead and go to a 3rd stem to really enforce it. Wrap it around a few times and then wrap it around itself, going back to the other wire. Once you get back to that stem, rewrap it with that wire to make it extra secure. When you're at the tail end of your little wire, feel free to wrap it around the base stem or rewrap it around itself to give it more structure and support. Now take out a piece of cardboard and cut a nice length that will fit across the lower part of your back. This is where we are going to be attaching the lightning bolts and the tail to. Now I took out a sharp object such as a knitting needle and I'm stabbing 4 holes for the tail. Make sure it's in a nice box shape. 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. Once you have them punctured out, go through with your poking stick or a pen and make sure it's easy for the wires to pass through. Make sure your wires are not tangled before you put this on and then thread it accordingly. Pull your cardboard to the base of the tail. Once you have your tail pushed up with all the cardboard, wrap the extra wires around the cardboard in a vertical fashion. Get your hot glue gun out and begin heating it up. Now start laying your pieces out. I cut 2 more pieces of that same cardboard and I got out that lightning piece. We're going to attach the lightning piece to the back of the tail. Add tons and tons of hot glue to this area. Remember that the lightning bolts must be facing downwards so that the actual tip point will be going down when it comes onto your body. Then sandwich it in between another piece of cardboard. Now take out one last piece of cardboard. I said cut out 3 of them. And cut slits. You only want 2 slits the same width as where the tail is. And then cut out that piece. Then glue it to the top of the tail. This will make a nice Oreo cardboard sandwich. Make sure to add tons more hot glue. Here you can see that I accidentally glued my lightning bolt pieces in the wrong spot, so I had to take it out about 3 more times until I got it right. So let's fast forward. So if you correctly positioned your lightning bolt pieces, it should look like this. This is the 3rd attempt after re-gluing and losing lots of hot glue sticks and killing myself with hot glue gun. Your lightning bolts should be facing inward and not outward, kind of like your tail. And then secure down any of the loose pieces of cardboard with hot glue. I had to go back and use my hair dryer and try to help melt some of the previous hot glue when I ripped it apart for fixing the lightning bolt pieces. Now get out your fabric. In order to attach it, I'm going to be cutting it up into long rectangles or squares. The reason why we're cutting it up into rectangles and squares is that it can easily bend and wrap around the tail without compromising any of the fabric. So I went ahead and added more wire, but honestly, it was a lot of effort and it didn't do much in the end result. I'm taking this nice blue thread and needle, and we're going to be looping it onto the tail's tip first. Make sure to have your fabric squares already cut out. By the way, look at this fabric! It's glorious, it's so wonderful, I can't wait to use it, oh my god! Ah! This is where you can have a lot of creative freedom with it. As long as you get the tail completely wrapped, it's fine. I started mine at the tip and then I worked my way down one of the stems, sewing it completely by hand. I avoided using glue because I didn't want any residue and looking cheap. So hand it was, and you can kind of see it here that I made sure that it was very outlined with one of the stems. I kept going and made sure that the fabric laid flat, and if it didn't, I would sew it down even more. I repeated this entire process with as much purple fabric as needed to cover the entire tail. Now I got out some elastic and I measured it to my waist. I'm going to be using this as a way to attach it to my body, and then I'm using the last of the scraps of the material that I've used all around the costume for it to blend in to cover the cardboard. Now I'm making a nice strip of hot glue at the top, and I'm going to be gluing down the elastic there. Next, get out a black scrap piece of fabric that's larger than your cardboard. If you have too much of it, then it's going to cover all of it and you don't need that. Make sure to cut out the slits so your straps can come out and secure it to yourself. Now, kind of doing the same thing as covering fabric with foam, we're going to just cover this with the black scrap fabric, and that way none of the cardboard will come out. Now slowly start trimming around all the pieces that are showing up, such as the lightning bolt pieces and the tail. You don't want to cover the tail completely, and you don't want to hide any of that, so you want to cut around it. It's okay if you need to cut extra snippets into it so it lays nice and even. For the bottom part of the lightning bolts, I decided to keep the scrap fabric as tight as possible, and I glued it right on top of the wiring to hide any of it from being exposed. And then I cut it again so it would go right next to the cardboard. That way the cardboard would be nice and secure versus having a whole lot of extra fabric not covering it. You can see that I did that here. For any pieces that were left over, I took a little bit of the scrap fabric and I just glued it on top of the exposed cardboard, and then I am done. I'm now using a nice black button so that I can secure the elastic around my waist, and I'm sewing this in because I want it to be nice and secure. On the other side, I just snipped open a hole in the elastic. Make sure that this hole is not too big, otherwise it will fall off. Looking at my tail now, I'm very proud of how it came out. Pictures make it look fantastic. Some of the pieces did fall off during transit, so I'll just have to like pin and tack it again. I like the fact that it has a little bit of like extra ribbing coming off of it because it is fabric, so it gives a little bit of a furry-esque look versus just like a rock hard solid tail. I definitely think this is a really fun type of tail because you can manipulate it in multiple ways versus foam or transparent art. I don't disagree with that look, but this is the look that I created. So if you create it, please link a comment or show me your pictures down below or tag me on social media. Well, that just about does it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, so check out the videos that YouTube recommends here or check out the Ahri playlist here. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, stay inspired, be creative, and I will see you in a future video. Bye!